Welcome back to the Yellow Room podcast, where it's all about positivity and empowering you to become the very best version of yourself. I'm Nika, the host of this podcast, and I'm so ecstatic that you tuned in for yet another powerful topic intended to empower you. Thank you. Before we get into today's episode, I want you all to hear from one of our fellow Yellow Room family members about how this podcast has been life-changing for her.
The Yellow Room has changed my life in so many ways, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I was in such a dark place when I started listening to the Yellow Room, and now I feel like, honestly, I'm just in a better space because of these amazing interviews. So I highly recommend, definitely tune in and tell a friend.
Hi, Yellow Room family. I am so happy to be back. Hello again to the ladies that tuned in for our episode on Working Woman Wednesday, because we know Wednesday is for the ladies. If you have not yet listened to that episode, please go ahead and do so. But this episode is for the ladies and gents. For all of you all, I want to let you all know that I missed you all so much while I went on my little break over the summer. Trust me, it was well needed. For those of you all who don't know, I got married on August the 29th, and I was being a bridezilla, if I could be honest. But everything turned out lovely. It was an amazing day. It was better than I could have ever imagined. But I'm back like never before. I'm so excited to get season 2 started with you all. Just know that I may have not been producing any episodes, but trust me, I'm always praying for those that are connected with me through this platform. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into today's topic. As the title of this episode implies, we will be talking about diamonds today and what goes into making diamonds. Well, not us making diamonds, but the earth, all of that good stuff. But I have mentioned previously on this podcast before that God communicates with me through dreams and through other people. And I'll go ahead and set the tone. If you are new to this podcast, I am unapologetically a Christian, and I'm also unapologetically imperfect. So there you have it. Let me go ahead and resume. But over the course of, over the past 2 months or so, I've talked to maybe 6 different people. And these people don't know one another whatsoever, but y'all know I talk to anybody. I'm always trying to brighten someone's day, but these 6 different people all brought up the subject or the topic of a diamond. And I was like, at first I wasn't catching on, but then it started to get a little weird. And so, Google is like always in my back pocket. We get sick, we self-diagnose, we hear a rumor, we go ahead and run to Google, see what's going on, see what's popping in the world. So I go ahead and research like how diamonds are formed and all of that good stuff. And something that stood out to me was that like how much heat and pressure diamonds have to go through before they can become the precious stone that they are. And it was like so prophetic for me. I was like, Lord, that was a word right there. Because in the moment when I first realized it and I Googled it, it was at a moment where I needed it the most. Like I just felt so overwhelmed with work and life and, just everything. Like it was in a moment on one of those days where you just don't feel like doing anything and you just want to throw in the towel. It was one of those moments. And for me to have read that, I'm like, wow, I have to take this to my Yellow Room family. So I thought about it. I wrote some stuff down, and I just have a great message that I want to talk with you all about today. And all in all, I just want this episode to be all about getting you, and this word is for me too, for us to realize that the pressures and the worries and all of that bad stuff the things that we deem bad, in the end, they all make us a better person. For those of you all who know me personally, you know that I am an open book. I will tell you probably more about myself than I probably should. But I am very transparent about things that I have gone through, lessons learned, all of that good stuff, because I just think that, I'm not selfish with what God places on the inside of me. So if I can prevent someone else from making the same mistakes that I have made, then that just brings glory to God's name. Like, it's just so fulfilling to me. But if you don't know me, I have gone through a lot of, I don't want to be extreme and say traumatizing, but I've gone through a lot. Different situations where looking back on it now, it's like, wow, like I really had great strength. Like, how did I make it? But it's all one common denominator throughout all of those seasons of my life. And that was God. Listen, God is a friend that sticks with you. I will say that. But anyway, like going back, just to know this about me, I'm not going to say that, as a child and even early adulthood, like that, I lived the American dream. That's not true whatsoever. To have made it to the point where I am now in life, I'm not saying that, I've arrived at my greatest, height or whatever. I'm still a work in progress, but I have overcome a lot of different obstacles, and it's just great to see how God has been so gracious over my life, despite all of, those dark spells or whatever. But I remember even back to being a child, I had educators and mentors to always pour and give life to me. And that's why I'm very big on that, because you don't know who you're like. You can see someone, you can physically see them, but you don't know what mental things that they're dealing with. So I'm very big on pouring into people, because yes, physically you can look well, but you may not be well on the inside. And I remember I would have, even back to daycare, my daycare teachers were always like pouring into me and telling me how smart and brilliant and clever I was, and how the sky is the limit and all of these great things. But in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm smart. I'm a quick learner, but my circumstances, my home life, my family socioeconomic status, some things just don't align. And I remember I was probably in the third grade when I first understood. I went to church with, I don't know who I went to church with, but anyway, they were talking about prayer and how you should pray and how you should pour out your heart to God as if you're talking to your earthly father. And I remember I was in third grade. That's probably the first time where I actually prayed and understood what I was doing. And I wept, like I was crying. Like you would have thought I was spread out on an altar somewhere. But anyway, I was pouring my heart out to God. And I remember why I was asking him, like, why is this way in my life? And why am I being exposed to this? And like, what is going on? Like, I just felt like I was disadvantaged, if I could be honest, in many ways. And now looking back on it, all of these things, like even back to childhood, I can see very clearly, like there's a correlation of how I overcame obstacles in my life and how I handle things right now. Like it amazes me, honestly, like how God has turned unfortunate circumstances into life-giving opportunities for me in my life. Fast forward to my present day life. I just have to give glory to God. Like, if you know me, look, I might be on a crazy side, but my love for God, listen, it's deep. And it's because we've gone through some things together. Like I'll save that. I could go on and on. I'll be here all day, all night telling y'all about how God has been like my number one fan. He's real. He's real. But if you would have told me as a little girl that I would be where I am today in life, I would have told you you're crazy. Like, to have achieved and accomplished and broken generational curses and setting the record and setting the tone for all the generations to come after me, I would have told you was a fool. But I have so many people that'll ask me, they may know in more detail what I'm speaking to when I say I've gone through some things and I've been exposed to some things. They'll ask me, well, how did you end up the way that you are? And honestly, it's out of fear of ending up in a position where I saw my parents or my family members have to struggle through, like financial instability. I'm very responsible and I try my hardest to make the best decisions with my money because I don't want to end up and I don't want to go backwards, point blank. That's all. Like, I'm glad that I was exposed to certain things, and I'm glad that I, saw people around me go through certain things, because it's like, okay, now you know better. If you make the wrong decisions, you can end up in a worse situation, and you don't want that. And so as a little, 9-year-old in a third grade, I'm pouring my heart out to God, telling him how I'm disadvantaged to be going through XYZ. And it's like, now I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for the storms in my life, because it's like I was built for the life that I live now. Had I not gone through those things, and had I not, cried myself to sleep, or had I not poured out my heart to God, for one, I wouldn't know how to lean on him in times of despair. Two, I wouldn't handle things the way I handle them. No, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'll be the first to tell you I'm jacked up in many ways, but there are some things that I'm just so glad that God exposed me to. But in those moments, it just made me feel like, the world was after me. I'm disadvantaged. Everyone else has a better life. And if I could be quite honest, looking back, some of the kids that I went to school with who I would deem, more privileged, they're on drugs now. They're strung out. They're not doing well. I pray for them, but it's like, would that have been me if I didn't go through my dark moments in my life? I say all of that to say that I'm not saying that I'm that shiny diamond just yet, that all the heat and the pressure develops, but I can truthfully and honestly say that I'm on my way. Like, I'm going to pursue everything that God has called me to do and be. Like, when I die, I want to die empty. Like, I want to be all poured out. I want to give myself away and give my life away to the things that God has called me to do. And by no means am I saying that, like, I know I said I was built for this life. I am indeed, but that I'm not saying that more storms won't come. I'm just saying that I will be better equipped having gone through what I've gone through, because none of us, I don't care how great of a person you think you are not. We are not immune to struggle, because every time you endure that heat and pressure and you have, you formed into more of that shiny diamond that God has called you to be, there's going to be more intense heat and more intense pressure. It's just, the saying goes, new levels, new devils. Like, the higher you climb the ladder, the harder those attacks will become. But you have to push through. You have to push through. Like, I know that sometimes it's hard, and I'll be the first to tell you that not every day is a great day for me, but I have to make up in my mind. I have to make up in my mind that I'm going to set the temperature. I'm going to set the tone. I can't control what others are doing. I can't control how others think about me. I can't control their perception, any of that. All I can do is bring the best me so that we can attempt to have a better, like it could be a better, like we, So I just want to encourage you all that no matter how bad and how dark and how troubling times can be, just remember it's that heat and it's that pressure that's going to make you the shiny diamond that God has called you to be. So for the remainder of this episode, there's 2 points that I want to touch on and talk through with so that you, and I don't care how you've dealt with that heat and pressure up until now, it's never too late. Today, moving forward, you can change the course of your life. I want you to be able to withstand that heat and that pressure so that you can form into the diamond that God has called you to be. I'll be right back after this message. Hello, Yellow Room family. Today's episode was brought to you by Anchor. I chose Anchor as my podcast host because it is, in fact, the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives me everything I need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. In fact, this episode was created and edited right from my mobile device. Anchor's creation tools allow me to record and edit my podcast on the go to make it sound great. They even distributed my podcast for me so that it can be heard on all platforms, to include Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. For more information, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. My first point is that adversity is only affirmation that you are built for better. I'm going to repeat that. Adversity is only affirmation that you are built for better. You have greater heights to climb. You have new levels to achieve. You have so much greatness down on the inside of you that God just can't deliver that perfectly packaged, destiny to you without you having to withstand some heat. I'm going to take it a step further and say that it's not only a matter of you withstanding heat, but it's you dealing with it. So we can sweep things under the rug, the biggest of our problems under the rug. But if we're not careful and we never deal with those things, all we'll end up doing is tripping over those things under the rug. Just as death and taxes are unavoidable parts of life, so is adversity. In fact, life, as you all know, is full of so many ups and downs, victories and struggles, and then you have those huge momentum shifts. It's just how life works, and adversity is a big part of all of our experience. It's part of our experiences insofar that oftentimes we want to fast forward through the bad times. However, adversity doesn't need to be a negative experience. And one of the things I really want you all to get from this episode is to stop looking at our problems as problems and start looking at them as solutions. Like, look at them as opportunities to develop ourselves to reach our next whatever it is in life. Dealing with adversity can become a very, very, very positive and nourishing experience that can lead to massive growth and development. Like I was saying, looking back to that 9-year-old little girl I was, who was just so curious about and heartbroken in so many ways about things that were going on around me. And it's like now I'm 25 years old and it's like, wow, like I'm so grateful for the struggle. I'm grateful, for seeing my parents and family members have to struggle with different life changes and all of that, because it made me a better person in the end. It gave me a strength, a mental strength that I just can't even like fathom. And I don't talk about like where I am now from a point of like, oh, I've achieved success. It's not from a materialistic viewpoint. It's more so I look at success. Yes, material can, be a part of success, but I think the bottom line of success is mental freedom, like a peace of mind. Like it's just amazing. And I think a lot of us are wanting, oh, like if I had more money, or if I had more of this, I had more of that, I would be happier, I would be better off. But we all know that that's not true. Look at the millionaires who still commit suicide. Look at the people who, appear to be so happy on social media. They're here one day and gone the next. You see a GoFundMe for their funeral. So you can't always, again, you can't take what you see like physically, because you never know what people are going through mentally and on the inside. I do think that for our generation, like social media is so prevalent, and it affects us a lot more, because people always post the highlights of their life. Like they put and present a perfect package on social media, but you don't know, like they'll Instagram or Facebook will have you thinking that they absolutely love themselves, they love their life, they love their family, but in their alone time, can they really stand themselves? Can they really look in the mirror? Like people, I don't care what walk of life you come from, like we all experience struggles. I want us all to look adversity in the eye, like face it head on and deal with it positively. So I want us to positively like deal with any setback. Like I want us all to feel empowered to take them head on and think of, like, I want you to have tunnel vision. I know people say it's not good to have tunnel vision, but tunnel vision towards the diamond that God wants you to be. So I want you moving forward, because remember, struggles are going to come. The higher you climb in life, the harder those storms are going to hit. So moving forward, I just want us all to take these positive actions in overcoming adversity. The first thing to do is always stay focused and mindful. When dealing with adversity, it's important for us to stay present. Stay present and mindful of the moment. Like I know that you should look forward, be optimistic about things moving forward. However, it's very important that we deal with our emotions and we deal with our pain points in the current moment, because again, you sweep those things under the rug, all it's going to happen is it's going to cause you to trip up in the future. When we are present and mindful, this naturally helps us improve our focus, which in return allows us to gain more clarity about the situation at hand and about our possible options to move forward. In addition to that, it is important that we stay objective. We can't cling on emotionally to specific outcomes and situations, because we may not be able to see what's going on clearly. So I do think that another benefit of having gone through things is your emotional intelligence develops in ways like I still don't understand how it baffles me sometimes how I'm able to deal with things. I often question my own mental strength, because it's like, wow, like I know the devil that was perfectly planned to, like, for it to be my downfall, but I was resilient. Like I amaze myself sometimes. However, it's also wise to stay self-aware of your thoughts and the feelings that you bring forth into any situation. Your thoughts and feelings can either help you or they can easily mislead you. So being self-aware will ensure that you always stay in control of your mental and your emotional feelings. It all comes down to our ability to focus on how things really are and not on how you imagine or hope them to be. The distinction here is very important and will help you to effectively deal with any situation at hand. The next thing I want us to do as part of the positive actions to take when dealing with adversity is to break things down. In order to break things down properly, we must look at adversity through a solution-focused lens. Facing adversity and setbacks can become rather overwhelming pretty quickly. I'm sure you all can relate. And oftentimes when it's very unexpected, it knocks us off our feet. And while we're off our feet or off balance, we are unable to see things clearly. And therefore, we cannot make intelligent decisions that can help us move forward. So in order for us to get ourselves back on our feet, once again, we must take charge of our situation. One way to do this is to turn adversity into a solution for a problem. Doing so is helpful because when you are dealing with a problem, you are in the midst of handling something that comes with a solution. This immediately puts us in a very different frame of mind. We are no longer at the mercy of a circumstance and no longer tempted to pull that victim card. Instead, we should be empowered to solve the problem because we now see it in a proper perspective, and that is through that solution-focused lens. Given this, it's time for us to get a little intimate with our problems by asking ourselves, how could I break this down into a solution? How could I present this problem in the form of a question? What process must I follow in order to solve this problem? What specifically do I control about this problem? That's a big one because self-accountability, it's real. What part of this problem should I tackle first? Prioritization. How will I tackle this problem? What's the first action step I need to take in order to do so? These questions lay the foundation of the actions that we must take that will help us solve any setback. In this way, we are able to begin building the momentum that we need to move through any circumstance successfully. Lastly, I want to touch on the fact that new levels present new devils. So again, the further to the top you climb, the harder those storms will hit. I know a lot of people, their greatest aspiration of life is to attain a certain amount of wealth or, attain a certain position in their company, whatever it is that you're ultimately trying to do. A lot of people think of, achieving that status or that position or that amount of wealth, like that's their finish line where they won't have any other problems, they won't have any other worries in the world. But again, let me remind you, those celebrities who take their life, when they were once dreamers, like they once upon a time looked forward to a future with wealth and success and all of the fame, but yet they found themselves in a place where they were vulnerable enough to take their own life. So I just want to remind you that no matter how far and how great of a person you become in life, that does not make you immune to any struggles, any pains, any worries, any of that. Like we all will still go through things. But again, every time you have your round of adversity or problems, it's what you do with those things that make you better equipped for the next level. So yes, attacks will still come, problems will still come, like people still may not like you, all of that stuff. However, have you matured enough from your past mistakes or your past pains in order for you to handle the situation at hand differently? I'd encourage you all to read Deuteronomy chapter 8. In this chapter, God talks about how from our mother's womb and from early on, like from down the line with our ancestors, he promises us all success and wealth. Ultimately, it's up to us whether or not we will ever attain it. And no, I'm not just talking money or anything like that. Whatever success and wealth means to you, that's what I'm talking about. However, we need to start asking ourselves and answering honestly. Yes, God calls us all to be this bright, shiny diamond, but will he ever, enhance our shine if we can't be trusted with what he's given us? Now you might ask, well, how do I show God that I can be trusted? The answer is this. It's how you deal with the worst of situations and turn them around for the better. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. If you are new here, please consider subscribing on whatever platform you're listening in on today. Leave me a rating, leave me a review, comment, whatever you feel that you want to do. If you already consider yourself a part of the Yellow Room family, please consider making a small monthly donation to sustain and contribute to my growing platform. No amount is too small. Donations can be made at anchor.fm/theyellowroom/support. If you are unable to, I still love you just the same. You can still support me by listening, sharing, and providing feedback. I thank you all so much, and I appreciate your continued listenership. Thank you.